Hello, my name's Ian Glover, President of CREST. I'd just like to give you a little bit more of an update in terms of some of the work we're doing with the Civil Aviation Authority related to their new scheme called Assure. The Assure programme is designed to look at the NIST directive and also the cyber assessment framework that operates within the aviation industry and pull those together to provide some level of assurance to the regulator that the community, the aviation community, is acting in an appropriate fashion in relation to cybersecurity related issues. The process that the Assure programme goes through is an initial questionnaire is sent out to organisations that are under the regulated scheme. They provide a response back, and that response is in two formats. One relates directly to the NIST directive and the other relates to the cyber assessment framework operated by the CAA. The idea that the CAA have then got is that external organisations, suitably accredited organisations and suitably qualified individuals then validate the responses that are provided to the regulator. That validation is provided by the regulator, and then the regulator makes a final decision on whether or not there is an appropriate level of security in place to protect the organisation or the services that are being provided. I think this is probably one of the most mature approaches to looking at the NIST directive in particular that we've seen through all of the regulators that we're working with in these particular areas. And I think it's a really sensible, scalable approach that will provide a consistent set of results that can be utilised by the regulator to actually get a good understanding about the level of maturity within the aviation industry. There's an awful lot of other industries that fall under the NIST directive that are also very interested in this work, and it's my belief that the principles associated with this scheme will be extended into other domains. From a company perspective, so from a CREST company member perspective, then the criteria is set by the CAA in terms of what the minimum requirements are, and CREST undertake that accreditation process on behalf of the CAA. The CAA have final sign-off in terms of whether or not an organisation is fit for purpose. We then combine that together with qualifications, and the qualifications fall into three specific areas. The first is technical security, and a lot of the existing CREST technical qualifications fall into that particular bracket. We then look at audit, and we're looking at organisations that have got access to 27001 lead auditors with a technical competence. And then the third is looking at IT/OT, so in other words, looking at the operational environments as well as the IT environments. The organisation has to demonstrate it's got capability in all of those three areas. And the reason for doing that is the evidential artefacts that are provided to provide justification that the NIST directive and the questionnaire has been completed correctly fall under those three brackets. So in other words, each of those evidential artefacts needs to be signed off by a combination of all of those three or individuals. So from a technical security perspective, from an audit perspective, or from an IT/OT perspective. And again, I think that combination of providing different skill sets is a really appropriate and mature approach to taking levels of assurance within this particular domain. I think this is much stronger than just, say, using a technically competent individual or using somebody who's very experienced in terms of audit. And I think the combination of those elements together make it a much stronger approach. And the inclusion of IT/OT also allows us to expand out into other operational areas, all falling under the critical national infrastructure. So again, I believe that the model for this particular area under the Assure programme can be easily rolled out to other areas of the critical national infrastructure in a very controlled way. I think the CAA have been excellent in terms of the way they've actually gone about this process. It's been mature, it's been timely, and we've made really good progress in what I think is a relatively short timescale. They've involved everybody from the community. From a CREST perspective, they've worked really well with us to look at the accreditation of the companies that are supplying those services, and also the individuals that hold qualifications in either technical security, audit, or IT/OT. The combination of those two, again, pulling those together into an overall scheme, I think has been operated extremely well. And we really look forward to the launch in January 2020 as the programme starts to roll out to the different areas within the Civil Aviation Authority regulated environment. Coming back to the role of the CAA, again, I think the community has got together extremely well. They've involved the suppliers, they've involved the buying community, and they've involved the regulators, as well as pulling together the elements of both the NIST directive and the cyber assessment framework, the CAF. And I think pulling all of those communities together and spending the time to make sure that people understand the process, making sure there's good policies, process and procedures in place to actually enable this to be put into place in a structured and efficient way, I think has been extremely good. I really look forward to seeing the output from some of the initial trials that we'll be running early in 2020, and gradually what we'll do is we will be maturing the overall process based on the lessons learned from the early implementations. From my perspective, again, the Assure process, I think, is one of the most mature we've seen in the NIST directive. And I think this is the approach that should be taken by other areas of the critical national infrastructure. And what we've tried to do with the Civil Aviation Authority is to make sure there's a generic set of policies, process and procedures and implementation guides that we can pull together to make that really easily implementable by other areas of the critical national infrastructure. I also believe both domestically in the UK, this is a fantastic opportunity for member organisations to provide the services. But again, because the NIST directive goes much broader and there are similar initiatives in other parts of the world, that lessons we learn from this can be easily implemented into other domains. Thank you very much.